The narrative tour you are about to watch is one of several virtual tours. These virtual tours are sponsored by Thurgood Marshall Center Trust's student programs. To learn more of the TMCT student programs, go to the TMCT website at tmctprograms.org. Thank you and enjoy the tour. Would you like to be a part of this awesome Student Beacon Leadership Program, as well as other student programs? Make sure you click the Register Now button on the tmctprograms.org website. There, you'll be directed to a page where you just fill out some information about yourself. Join to be a Beacon Leader today. The TMCT Narrative Virtual Tour you are about to watch is one of several virtual tours. Each virtual tour is narrated by a knowledgeable expert in the field. The presenter for the tour you are currently watching is Dr. Benjamin F. Chavis. Thank you and enjoy the tour.
I'm Benjamin F. Chavis, Jr. for the Thurgood Marshall Center, and I'm pleased to welcome you on this tour of the historic Shaw District, located in the heart of DC's African American community.
Hello passengers, welcome to the Shaw District Virtual Tour. Buckle up, our first stop on the tour is in the heart of the Shaw District. We will be traveling along U Street, merging left on Florida Avenue and turning left onto 7th Street. We're here, enjoy the tour.
Shaw is a central neighborhood in the northwest quadrant of Washington, D.C., the capital city of the United States. Shaw and the U Street corridor historically have been the city's African American social, cultural, and economic hub that witnessed civil rights leaders like the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, as well as being the area that saw numerous social uprisings, marches, and protests that fought to achieve racial equality in the Shaw area and throughout the entirety of America. The District of Columbia has designated much of Shaw as the Shaw Historic District. This historically African American neighborhood is the home to the 1910 Howard Theater, where jazz greats like Ella Fitzgerald, Pearl Bailey, and DC's local owned Duke Ellington once performed. Shaw is hip, trendy, and edgy. From the live go-go music of the neighborhood to the legendary restaurants and theaters to the African American Civil War Memorial and the first African American YMCA in the country, now the Thurgood Marshall Center Trust. You'll find plenty of excitement and culture here. Shaw emerged from free slave encampments in the rural outskirts of Washington, D.C. It was originally called Uptown in an era when the city's boundary ended at Boundary Street, now Florida Avenue. The lack of investment and limited power in the area created a barrier in the neighborhood's development and urbanization during the early 1800s. Further growth was hindered by increasing racial tensions as more African Americans settled in the region. By the 1850s, Washington, D.C. had one of the largest African American population of any city in the United States. The neighborhood thrived in the late 19th and early 20th centuries as the pre-Harlem national center of U.S. Black intellectual and cultural life. Shaw's neighborhood offers different landmarks consisting of the Howard Theater, the Dunbar Theater, the City Market at Old Street, and the historic Shiloh Baptist Church that when President Obama was president, he and Michelle Obama attended regularly. I want to encourage all of you to learn about this historic Shaw District, and if you ever have a chance to be in America and to be in the nation's capital, you have to visit the historic Shaw District.
Hello passengers, I hope you enjoyed learning about the Shaw District. Our next stop is Thurgood Marshall Center Trust. We will be traveling along P Street, making a right on R Street, turning left onto T Street and going down 12th Street. We're here. Enjoy the tour. The tmct narrative virtual tour you are about to watch is one of several virtual tours. Each virtual tour is narrated by a knowledgeable expert in the field. The presenter for the tour you are currently watching is Dr. Thomasina Yearwood. Thank you and enjoy the tour. The Thurgood Marshall Center was established in 1908 and is located at 1816 12th Street in Northwest DC. Thurgood Marshall Center was also funded by John D. Rockefeller and Julius Rosenwald. The Thurgood Marshall Center was the first African American YMCA. Thurgood Marshall Center was designed by William Sidney Pittman. Additionally, Langston Hughes used to live at Thurgood Marshall Center. Thurgood Marshall and Dr. Charles Drew studied at Thurgood Marshall Center. Thurgood Marshall Center Trust was established in 2002. Hello passengers, I hope you enjoyed learning about Thurgood Marshall Center. Our next stop is the African American Civil War Museum. We will be traveling down 11th Street, turning right onto U Street and merging right onto Vermont Avenue. We're here, enjoy the tour. The tmct narrative virtual tour you are about to watch is one of several virtual tours. Each virtual tour is narrated by a knowledgeable expert in the field. The presenter for the tour you are currently watching is Major Dwayne M. Littlejohn. Thank you and enjoy the tour.
My name is Major Dwayne Littlejohn, commissioned as a second lieutenant in the United States Marine Corps, December 2008. I've served over 10 years on active duty, and I've loved every minute of it. My family has a rich history of military and police service, especially in the Washington, D.C. area. My father is a Marine veteran who served as an officer in the United States Marine Corps. My great uncle was a Marine. He served in Vietnam. My grandfather is an Army veteran and a local police officer in the Washington, D.C. area. It means a great deal to us to be able to serve our country and to provide some type of contribution to the success of the nation. Being an African American, serving in the armed forces, and being from the Washington, D.C. area, this museum is of great importance and significance to me. It shows that African American history is American history, and the contributions of all people who have fought for justice and freedom on behalf of the American flag deserve to be recognized. The African American Civil War Memorial Museum was dedicated by the African American Civil War Memorial Freedom Foundation, July 1998. It's located in the U Street district of Washington, D.C., and recognized the contributions of over 209,000 African Americans who served as members of the United States Colored Troops, the USCT, together with about 7,000 white and over 2,000 Hispanic soldiers, and approximately 20,000 unsegregated Navy soldiers. Altogether, there were 175 regiments of the United States Colored Troops who fought for the Union in the American Civil War. As a family, we're extremely proud of our service. It's a great mark for us to be able to have some form of contribution to protecting our way of life as a country. As a family, we're extremely proud of our service. It's a great mark for us to be able to have some form of contribution to protecting our way of life as a country. The memorial is located at the corner of Vermont Avenue, 10th Street, and U Street Northwest in Washington, D.C. It's marked by a 9-foot bronze statue, The Spirit of Freedom, by Ed Hamilton of Louisville, Kentucky, commissioned by the D.C. Commission on the Arts and Humanities in 1993. It was completed in 1997. The memorial includes a walking area with curved panel, short walls inscribed with the names of the men who served in the war. It's important to maintain a connection to our history and service that we can be proud of as a nation and as a culture. I stand on the shoulders of those who have served before me, who have broken barriers in the defense of the nation. I hope that this piece of history, that this legacy, serves as a beacon to attract bright young men and women from diverse backgrounds to take advantage of the opportunities provided to them by those who came before them, that people fought for and died for in the defense of our nation, and that this next generation participates in the creation of opportunities for future generations.
Hello passengers, I hope you enjoyed learning about African American Civil War Museum. Our next stop is Howard University. We will be turning left on Florida Avenue, turning right on Berry Plain, turning left on Georgia Avenue, and turning right on Howard Plain. We're here, enjoy the tour. American Civil War, members of the First Congregational Society of Washington considered establishing a theological seminary for the education of black clergymen. Within a few weeks, the project expanded to include a provision for establishing a university. Within 2 years, the university consisted of the colleges of liberal arts and medicine. The new institution was named for General Oliver Otis Howard, a Civil War hero who was both the founder of the university and, at the time, commissioner of the Freedmen's Bureau. Howard later served as president of the university from 1869 to 1874. Howard University played an important role in the civil rights movement on a number of occasions. Locke, chair of the Department of Philosophy and first African-American Rhodes Scholar, authored The New Negro, which helped to usher in the Harlem Renaissance. Ralph Bunche, the first Nobel Peace Prize winner of African descent, served as chair of the Department of Political Science. Beginning in 1942, Howard University students pioneered the stool-sitting technique of occupying stools at a local cafeteria, which denied service to African Americans, blocking other customers waiting for service. Hello passengers, I hope you enjoyed learning about Howard University. Our next stop is Ben's Chili Bowl. We will be traveling along Vermont Avenue and making a left onto U Street. We're here, enjoy the tour. Ben's Chili Bowl is a landmark restaurant in Washington, D.C., located at 1213 U Street, next to Lincoln Theater, in the U Street Corridor, aka Cordoza or Shaw neighborhood of Northwest DC. It is known locally for its chili dogs, half smokes, and milkshakes, and has been an integral part of the neighborhood's history since its founding in 1958. It was frequented by both police and protesters during the 1968 Washington, D.C. riots and is regularly visited by celebrities such as Anthony Bourdain and Chris Tucker. Hello passengers, I hope you enjoyed learning about Howard Theater. Our next stop is Busboys and Poets. We will be traveling along U Street and making a right onto 14th. We're here, enjoy the tour. The tmct narrative virtual tour you are about to watch is one of several virtual tours. Each virtual tour is narrated by a knowledgeable expert in the field. The presenter for the tour you are currently watching is Andy Shalal. Thank you and enjoy the tour.
Hello, I'm Andy Shalal. I'm the CEO and founder of Busboys and Poets, which is a local gathering place here in Washington, D.C. It's a cultural center that brings art, culture, and politics together and intentionally collides them. We are a place that uplifts people when they walk in through the door, a place that really represents DC and it's all of its layers.
Busboys and Poets is a full-service restaurant, bar, bookstore, coffee shop, and events venue in Washington, D.C. Founded in 2005 by Andy Shalal.
So all of these layers coming together to create a space that represents DC was important to me, having grown up here in the city for many years. And I wanted a space that I wanted to go to that has its own unique DC identity. I was tired of people coming in and saying, this is so New York, this is so LA, this is so this and that, but never this is so DC. And I thought, well, why not? You know, DC has its own character. Why not create something that really does feel and look like DC? And that's where Busboys and Poets was born.
The original Busboys and Poets is located at 14th and V in the U Street corridor. The name refers to American poet Langston Hughes, who worked as a busboy at the Wardman Park Hotel in the 1930s, prior to gaining recognition as a poet.
Busboys and Poets is named after the great African-American poet Langston Hughes, probably one of the most prolific and best-known poets of the 20th century, certainly. Langston Hughes grew up in DC for a short period of time. He didn't grow up really here, but he lived here for a short period of time. He worked as a busboy at the Wardman Park Hotel, which is still there in Woodley Park in Washington. And one day when he was working there, a very famous poet by the name of Bacha Lindsay, who happened to be in town for some kind of conference, happened to walk into the restaurant where Langston Hughes was working. The young Langston Hughes at that time was 22 years old, slipped some of his poetry next to Bacha Lindsay's plate. So the next day on his way to work, Langston Hughes picks up the newspaper and on it said that Bacha Lindsay had discovered a busboy poet. A couple months later, he was able to leave that job and work full-time as a poet and speaker and writer, and traveled all over the United States after that.
Shalal painted the giant civil rights movement themed mural covering one wall of the restaurant, titled Peace in Struggle Wall. He refuses to sign the mural, saying this would be a final gesture that would preclude him from making revisions later. The collage depicts civil rights icons including the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. and Nelson Mandela. It features the words of Langston Hughes, "Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be."
So I studied Langston Hughes when I was in middle school. It was one of the first really people of the Harlem Renaissance that I was introduced to. We had a really gifted teacher that was very much interested in teaching us American history through the Harlem Renaissance. And learning about Langston Hughes, he also required us to memorize poetry. Well, I didn't speak in English. I had just come from Iraq very recently, was 10 years old at the time, and she made us memorize poetry. Of course, not speaking the language, I could still memorize, but I didn't understand the words. But it was very empowering to be able to say words that you may not know what they mean, but they're coming out of your mouth. So I memorized lots of Langston Hughes poetry. I still have it in my head. And so the poem "Let America Be America Again," one of the most iconic poems that he'd written, really represented to me exactly where we are today in America. Certainly when I opened in 2005, things have changed, of course, quite a bit, but still, America is still a work in progress. And that's what Langston Hughes was talking about, the America that could be. And I wanted to share that kind of sentimentality and that kind of sentiment with folks that walk into Busboys and Poets, to be able to see, this is how I see America as well. As an immigrant coming to this country, I heard of that America that's amazing and incredible and egalitarian, and everybody's free, and this is home of the brave, blah blah blah. But then when you come here, you recognize there's lots and lots of flaws in America, as it is in many other nations, of course. But we have to address those flaws, and we have to work on them in order for us to become a more perfect union, as our Constitution states. So that's really kind of where I kind of started with it. I love the idea of having a space where people can come and eat and be able to connect with one another. They otherwise may not have an opportunity to do that because it's like a watering hole, right? Everybody comes to it, and then once they're there, magic happens. People start connecting with each other. They start talking to each other. They break bread together. And suddenly you start breaking barriers and connect people from opposite ends of the city sometimes that otherwise wouldn't have opportunities to see each other. And I think it can make for a better, more cohesive, community. And that was kind of the idea behind Busboys and Poets.